Excited to be coming to you live from Arizona. Steve, how are you doing this, what is it, April 22nd? It's the only one we're ever going to get. How's your April 22nd, 2020?
Well, so far it's doing good. I've got I've got lots of water pipe problems breaking. I've got evidently the copper doesn't get along with the soil in my area. So last Saturday we had to cut a hole in my laundry room, concrete, and go down in and jackhammer out the concrete and then replace the copper line, about 3 foot of it. Well, now we were just walking up toward the well, and we got a broken water line up there that I got to fix as soon as I get done here.
If it's not one thing, it's another.
Line. Pick up the shovel and dig another well.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I'm glad you know how to do that because I don't know how to do that, and I very much respect people who do know how to do that. But I'll tell you what we are here to do today is to answer questions about mules and donkeys. What do you say we do that for the next little bit, Steve?
Hey, let's get her done.
All right, very good. Well, folks, the way this works, especially if you are joining us for the very first time, is first off, we want to know that you're here. We want to know that you're here hanging out with us, watching. Put your name, where you're watching from, and what the weather is like in the comment section, whether you're watching on Facebook or whether you're watching on YouTube. We want to hear from you, and we want to know that you're here. I'm trying to get Facebook pulled up right now so that we can see everyone who's hanging out with us. It looks like we've got Sarah from the plains of South Dakota, sunny, warm, thunderstorm coming. Lisa Osborne is watching. Steve Sparks is watching. We've got the gang here today. I'm trying to get Facebook pulled up because I know we've got friends watching over on Facebook. And I'll tell you what, Steve, out of all of the tools that I use, it seems like Facebook gives me the most problems. But you know what? I love that it keeps us connected. We have so many friends on Facebook, don't we?
Yep, sure do.
We do.
Sure do.
Okay.
It's been interesting to see your Facebook thing.
It's coming up here. Pulling up. And Lisa says, Dixon, Tennessee, getting ready to rain. Okay, here we go. Finally, I got it up. David and Di are watching from the Great Down Under. So we have gone international here. How about that? Already gone international. Yeah,
that David and Di, boy, they're a great couple to have spend time with. But we're looking forward to doing that again.
Yeah, just give me a real quick breakdown of, I know you did touristy and sightseeing and stuff like that, but what did you do with the mules while you were down there in Australia?
Well, I judged the National Mule and Donkey Show, and which Dave and Di are a major contributor to that time frame and this sort of thing. And then we had a mule and donkey training session the day before that. So we had 2 days of national show, and we had 1 day of training, and it was really fun. Because I'm telling you, folks, everybody thinks mules may be different in Australia or Egypt or Israel or some of the places I've been, but they're not. They're really the same all the way through. I train them the same. I have people have the same little difficulties with the mules as what people do in the States.
Yeah.
It's just not you all. Folks learning how to speak mule and donkey, it takes a little bit to do that.
Well, very good. Let's help some folks speak mule and donkey today. We've got David Scholl watching. We've got Joy Hollingsworth watching from Maryborough, Australian. We've gone international again. How about that?
There's where we had the National Mule and Donkey show was there in Marysboro.
That's very good. We've got Cowboykin watching, says, hello, Guy. Cowboykin, we're good. We're glad that you're here. Let's hop into the first question of today. We got a lot of good questions that have come in over email and through Facebook. The first question that we got, this one's about first ride, and this one comes from Karen. Karen says, good morning. Thank you for sending the good videos about training and feed. I have 2 burros. I used to have 3. I'm getting a new baby soon. I want to learn how to train a donkey burro to ride. Mine are very nice pets, but I did not work with them enough early on, and it shows. Thanks, Karen. Steve, what would you say about helping to transform these 2 burros into riding animals?
Well, burros and donkeys, they're the same thing, just got a different name for each one of them. And as a matter of fact, if we look at the word burro, it really means stupid in Spanish. But they are extremely smart. Groundwork, groundwork, groundwork. You need to do groundwork. You can teach them to do everything you need to do in the saddle. Side passing, turn on the forehand, turn on the hindquarters. Pardon me. You can do all of that on the ground before you even get in saddle. I do have, Dave, I have the DVD on Saddle Donkey Foundation that will show all the step-for-steps. But they're very easy. Folks, I have taken some donkeys just for demonstration purposes and showed people at expos in a 3-hour time frame what it would take me to do over a 6-month time frame, and showed them in 3 hours in 3 different sessions, and I was riding that donkey by the 3rd hour. They're just extremely smart and they're great, but probably that video saddle donkey would be really good. Foundation saddle donkey would be good for them.
Very good. I'll put that link in the comments section. Now, one of the things that I want to ask, though, you say, hey, I did in a 3-hour time period what usually I'd do over 6 months, and by the end I was riding. Obviously, you've spent a lot of time with the animals. You understand, how to get to it pretty quickly. It might sound a little intimidating to somebody thinking, well, I can't do that, so I can't train my animal. Will you talk just a little bit about, because I know that we've talked about this so much, and I know that you're passionate about this. People can train their own animals. They don't need to wait for a clinic. They don't need to wait for an expo to get out there and actually have meaningful training. Can you just talk a little bit about that and really what the difference maker is?
Well, what I would do, Dave, is I would say, okay, for the first month, I'm going to do ground foundation. And then I would show them what I would do in a month's time frame. And then I'd say, now for the second month, I would do ground foundation with the surcingle and the bidding program. And then people would see that in a few minutes later. And I would break it down each month by just so much time. And so then I would say, okay, now my next step would be to set a saddle on and put the breeching, breast collar, everything on at one time. And then I would show how to do that. And then the next hour, I would say, okay, now I've did my groundwork, I've done my surcingle work, I've done my saddle work, I've done my bidding work. Now it's time to start putting a little weight in the saddle. And I would kind of stand up on the stirrup, teaching, thinking about before this, that how my donkey, how my mule, I've taught them to stand still. It's not important that they move their feet. It's important they learn to stand still. Moving feet is really easy to do. So then I would stand up in the saddle a little bit, and then I would tap the other side of the saddle, and then I would move around some, and I would be on another mule and show people how I would be on top of that mule, which would make me almost like over top of the donkey or the other mule, and they would get an idea of the height above them. And I would do that sometimes, but then by the 3rd hour, I would be riding. I would show how I'd put my feet in the stirrups and how I'd climb in the saddle nice and quiet, and how I would encourage them to move off of my legs, because you got to remember that work I've already done on the ground. My ground foundation, I taught them how to side pass, turn on the forehand, turn on the hindquarters on the ground. And that's, I kind of put it, I did a 6-month time frame in 3 hours.
Very good. Well, I just want to let folks know real quick that I put a link to the Donkey Saddle Foundation training video in the comment section. Just below that, right now through Monday of next week, we are running 15 of Steve's videos. It's almost all the videos that we have available on the store right now. They're available for $400 off the individual price. So if you were to get all of them, it'd come out to over $700. Right now, they're on sale for $300. You can get Donkey Saddle Foundation training, but all of the other videos that Steve has available, and it includes a lot of repetition of what Steve just discussed. in addition to hobbling, shoeing, driving, communicating from the lines, communicating from the saddle, first ride. It's got a lot of amazing instruction. So you could get the Donkey Saddle Foundation training video, and I think that one's $59.95, or you could get all the videos for a little bit more, considering all of the stuff that you got. So just want to make sure that folks know that that's there, and it is going away before our live stream next week. But let's get back to Facebook. Jack is watching from Johannesburg, Michigan. Jack, it's good to have you here. Gail is watching from Ash, North Carolina, eastern coast of North Carolina, near the South Carolina border. Gail, we're glad that you're here. Thanks for hanging out with us on Eastern time even. We've got Ryan Murphy. He's got a question. Ryan says, please provide some insight to Mules 15-3 hands high with Shivers. My mule seems to show the signs, and I'm concerned it will limit his abilities in the future, already unable to hold the rear feet up to clean. Steve, what are Shivers, and what thoughts do you have regarding what Ryan's talking about here?
I don't know what the term shivers are. When I think about shivers, I think about cold, and I'm kind of doing this number.
That's what I was thinking.
But I've never heard of such a thing. When you pick up their feet, folks, you need to remember that they have to pick the foot up and give it to you. Now, I tell you what, that's where David in Australia, I got pictures, and I sent some to you, Dave, of him taking a high-pressure washer and the mule giving him the foot, and he's using the high-pressure washer to wash the animal's feet, front and rear. And he's using the high-pressure washer to wash the whole animal. It's something. But go back. You need to uncock the hip of the mule and the donkey. And the way you do that is on your left-hand side, which is your near side, you put your left hand on their hip, slide your hand down the leg, bring the leg forward, then go straight back and over to the left. That's the big problem what people have with these mules and donkeys, is they don't pick up their foot incorrectly, and so the animal wants to jerk it away from them, because we're actually causing them some discomfort by pulling on that leg and not picking it up correctly.
So Ryan, if you've got any additional information about what you mean by shivers, go ahead and send that to us in the comment section there. Extrapolate, and we'll make sure to get to it. Let's see, over on YouTube, and real quick, there was a video that Steve that I recorded for Steve about a year ago, and this video was at a clinic at Queen Valley Mule Ranch, and this animal did not want to lift the rear foot. It's some of the most golden footage you're going to see. It's free. It's on YouTube, and I just put a link to it in the comments section. It's about 12 minutes. If you think that Steve just steps up to the animal and they do whatever he says, this is proof that that does not happen. Of course, sometimes they walk up there, because what's your poem that you that you whisper into the mule's ear, Steve? What's your little poem?
Roses are red, violets are blue. Mules that make me look bad will be turned to glue.
So we've got that working for us, but this one right here, I promise you, did not want to do what Steve was telling him to do. It's 12 minutes of struggle, and in the end, you see Steve work through it and finally get it to the point where the mule listens, maybe a little bit, begrudgingly, but the mule listen. You're going to really enjoy it. Let's see here. We've got Danielle watching from Eugene, Oregon. We've got Mark Miller, a great day here in Virginia. What is the longest rope you would use when hobbling from hind foot, and how do you feel about feeding shredded beets? Good questions from Mark Miller. Steve, what do you say?
That beet pulp is great, really great for the digestive system. Helps push sand out. I would feed about a cup a day, maybe first thing in the morning. And as far as what kind of rope would I use on a hobble, now I'd be using a one-legged hobble, so it'd be a right rear or a left rear hobble to a tree or a stump. And I have gone up to 40 feet. So the reason I say 40 feet, that is the packing rope that I would use to put my load on with, 40-foot rope. So I have used up to 40 feet, but it just depends on how many things you have that get in the way. Remember that when you hobble 2 front feet, that is to make them stand still and quiet. It is not, folks, for feeding them, for letting them graze on the feed. If you're going to graze one on the feed for feeding, you hobble a left front, right rear, cross hobbling. And that's on my video there about, it's called Wait Here. And that's, oh, by the way, Dave, that's part of that series, too, that we were talking about that the folks can get.
Yeah, it is. So I'll put a link to Wait Here. Let's see. I've got it here. Wait Here, basics of hobbling, highlining, and it's one other thing in the name there. Looking, all of these videos are available on Steve's website, muleranch.com. And then, of course, we've got a lot of great stuff on our YouTube page. So if y'all haven't checked out Steve's YouTube channel, you want to definitely spend some time on the YouTube channel checking that out. Wait Here, the hobbling, highlining, and picketing. I'll get the link for folks right here. Hobbling video.
So where people make mistakes on hobbling, the way I have understood it from the old cowboys over the years, and the way I have practiced it, when you hobble 2 front feet, that mule is not to move at all, none. But when you hobble a rear foot, then he can graze around tied to a long rope. Or if you want to cross hobble and let them go out and graze on their own, then you're doing left front, right rear. Then they have to scoot to get their feed, which works really well. With 2 front feet hobbled, I have literally seen them run 6 miles to get back to the truck.
So Ryan just sent through some information on Shivers. I'm going to read it real quick, Steve, and if we can't get to it, then maybe Ryan can give you a call and you can talk through it.
Sure.
Shivers or shivering are names that have been applied to a chronic neuromuscular syndrome in horses that has been recognized for centuries. It has been stated that the condition is reasonably common, uncommon, and rare to very rare. Let's see. Signs of Shivers. Clinical spectrum of shiver in horses is very variable to the degree of manifestation. The diagnosis of a characteristic case of Shivers seldom presents a problem. Shivers may be extremely, hyperflexion. One hind limb is raised up and away from
different. All right. Yeah. Okay.
Hyperextension too.
Yeah. Okay. Hyperextension is that could be curable, but it's not. It's a bad problem. What it amounts to is when they pick up their back leg, it kind of jerks a little bit, and then they go into their step. And so it can be a major problem, and it usually happens when they slide in mud, and it's just like us spraining an ankle, but it's worse than that. They pull tendons and stuff, or they slide on ice. And matter of fact, my granddaughter's got one like that right now that she's dealing with, and we're not really. The doctor says he thinks this one will come out. But I have yet to see that really come out where it comes out good. But there's no fixing it unless it's as minor as what this doctor's saying. I haven't seen it, but my granddaughter just sent me videos and this sort of thing of it. And plus what the doctor said. But that's a whole different thing. Shivers. Never heard it called that before.
So what would you recommend Ryan does? What's some steps he can take?
Well, there's not really any steps per se. Exercise, light exercise, works good and helps a little bit, because we don't want to. They stand around a lot and the tendons start shrinking up and they get tough. I would say talk to a good veterinarian and see if he's got some ideas on it as well. There's a lot of new stuff out, but they've also called it hunter's bump as well. But it's where the foot when he goes to put it down, it kind of jerks a little bit. And,
Okay.
And you can't ride them, you can't pack them. Even driving is tough on them.
So, Ryan, hopefully that gives you a little bit of where you can go next. And, of course, if you want to send a text message to Steve, you can, 602-999-6853. And you can leave a voicemail, too, and Steve will get back to you. We've got Susan watching from Western Pennsylvania, cloudy, windy, and cool. That sounds like my ideal afternoon there. I would love windy, cloudy, and cool. Let's see. Right here we've got Jermaine. Hey, Jermaine, how's it going? From Rio Rico, Arizona watching. Let's see. We've got Danelle out in Oklahoma watching. We've got Cindy Calloway. Hey. Get watching Cindy Calloway, Bakersfield, California. We're glad that you're here, Cindy, Danelle. Susan is here. She says, Millie backs from the ground with the halter. That took a long while. Then started backing her using bits and reins from the ground. She does that. But the minute I get in the saddle, she absolutely will not back. I use verbal commands too. What would you say for Susan?
Susan, the verbal commands are only good for you. The horse, the mule, the donkey, they do not understand a word you are saying. So, it helps you because it makes you feel good. But here's the thing, folks. When you want one to back up, number one, you have to, when you're training, I always use my mule rider's martingale. Always, snaffle bit. Has a double twisted wire snaffle in there, and I hold my hands like this. And when you hold it, I hold my left rein solid, so my left brain is quiet. My right rein, I just bump. So I'm sitting in the saddle. I am quiet. I'm not saying a word. My legs are quiet. I do not touch them. I only take my hands and I go bump, 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 bump. And I just keep doing that. And then she drops her head. When she drops her head, I stop. Then we take it again, and I hold the reins. And I go bump, bump, bump. And she's thinking, all right, to get you to quit bumping me, if I drop my head, you're going to let go of me. No, that's the beginning of it. So she drops her head, but I keep bumping. Now she's thinking, wait a minute. I drop my head. Why aren't you letting go of me? Well, then she moves her shoulder. I let go. Then I quickly pick it up again. And again, remember, folks, my left brain is just quiet. It's standing still. My right brain, I'm just bumping. So she's thinking, when I start bumping her, she drops her head, moves her shoulder. Now, remember, we did this with some of my clients, and we also did it in Australia. It's something I do all the time, Dave, with my mule rider's martingale. So if we got a link to put to that, they could see how it's done. So anyway, then finally the mule moves a foot. That's enough for today. The biggest problem that we have is we tend to overdo. We think, oh, she did it, let's do it some more. No. Always build a foundation. 3 today. A few days later, do 3 more. A week later, do 3 more. So 3, 6, 9, and then 12. Always do it 3, 6, 9, 12. Limit yourself, folks. Don't try to get everything done at one time. And it's imperative you don't train every day. It's imperative. So by teaching 1/2 the brain at a time, see these mules and donkeys and horses, they don't have the cranial lobe that tells the right side what the left side to do and left side what the right side to do, you see. So that's why you have to teach them like that. And you'll see that. And I've got that on some of my other videos, Dave. I don't remember which other ones. But there is one where I'm using people to show you how to do it.
Yeah, well, it's quite frankly, it's across a lot of the different videos. One of the things that I've picked up from you, Steve, has been not being a equine person, not being a livestock farm cowboy person. You hear it once and you think, okay, I heard it. But then when you go out there, it doesn't go the way that you heard it the first time. And so you come back, and we have this happen quite a bit on the show here, is we'll have folks come back with the same question multiple times. And so they'll ask again, I went out, I tried, I did what you said, but they hear the answer again to the same question, except they hear it a little bit differently this time. Oh, okay, all right. And they pick up on something different. Then they go back out and they try it, and it works differently for them. And they come back and say, I tried what you said. It didn't work the first time. It worked the second time. But it's the repetition, hearing things from a different angle, hearing things from, a different perspective. Hey, I tried it. I was having this problem. I tried what you said to fix. Here's what happened. It didn't fix it, but here's what happened. Okay, we'll try it this way. And it's that repetition that happens. And so, as folks go through the YouTube videos that you got, they may think, oh, I already watched a video on that. Well, no, watch it again, because you're going to see something from a different way that you didn't think you were going to see it before, and it's going to make a new set of sense to you. Does that make sense to you? That's a real thing, right? That's not just me,
is
it?
Oh, yeah. For me, I have to do something several times to get a handle on it, to really know what's going on. Especially like reading, this sort of thing. I have to read it several times to get it. So I understand that. So it's just going to be the same thing here. You're going to look at it one day and go, oh, that's what I missed. And then go back over and do it, and Mr. Mule, Mr. Donkey gets it. But folks, you got to remember, when you pull on a donkey, when you pull on a mule, all they're going to do is brace into you. It's exactly what they'll do. Horse will tend to rear, but a mule or a donkey tends to brace into it.
And we talked about this last week. When you try to pull, it's how much is an average size mule weigh? Like 1,800 pounds, something like that?
No, more like around 1,000 pounds.
1,000 pounds. Okay, so you're pulling against 1,000 pounds, and on a good day, I'm 170, right? 165, 170. 170 versus 1,000 pounds. Like who's going to win? 200 versus 1,000 pounds. 250 versus 1,000 pounds. Much less going down 150, 100, and some, even some of these kids, 110 pounds. It's the bump. It's the ask, tell, demand that they listen to and respect, not the force, right?
Yeah.
Allow the halter to work.
All they're wanting to do is they're wanting to be comfortable. It's part of their life, comfortable, uncomfortable. And you're making them uncomfortable just by bumping. Just think about this, Dave. A fly lands on them. They know that fly's there. Mm-hmm. And they can move that fly away. So why are we pulling and yanking? We don't have to. We simply just need to bump, and you'll get the response and the respect. Now, don't get me wrong, in the very beginning, when these animals really can pull against you, mm-hmm. You got to get heavy with them. Right, left, right, left, right, left. And if you have to, fine. But they will get over it. Just about Dave there in Australia. He's got a team of nice Belgian mules. And at first, boy, they were really on me. They were jerking me pretty hard. And I got right, left with that pair of Belgian mules. And between the two of them, they're probably about 2,600 to 2,800 pounds. And that's a lot of doing it, and in a set of lines. But we got him now to where Dave going along nice and smooth and easy. And he's in Australia. He's doing a good job.
That's good. That's good. We're going global. We're making sure that people know that the mule and donkey is not a horse, and that God sure did make something unique when he made the mule, when he made the donkey. Let's see here. Danelle says, thanks so much for always being so helpful. What is your opinion on how much feed I should give my donkeys daily? They are 2 and 3 years old. I'm not sure I'm feeding them the right amount. We get feed questions a lot. This is some of that repetition we're talking about. Steve, what would you say?
Well, we need to know what you're doing with the donkeys. Are they just miniatures that you got them onto a cart, or actually riding them? We have to remember, folks, we want to feed them as we are using them. So if we're just feeding them to be pets, we're going to feed them just enough hay to maintain. It's really, really easy to founder a donkey, really easy. It's really easy to founder a mule, folks. Don't listen to these people say they won't founder, they won't overeat. They will. They really will. So, and here's the thing, too, about feed. I had a person ask me about orchard hay compared to Timothy hay. Well, here's the thing. How much carbohydrates are in that feed? How much of the other vitamins and this sort of things in that feed? When was it cut? It all makes a difference. Not just hay is hay. No, it's different times of the year. It is stronger in strength with the carbohydrates than it is like it does in the very beginning of the year compared to the end of the year. So that feed is really important, how you're feeding. We've got a couple of different videos on that YouTube, Dave, and also, that article I've got, Mules, Castrated, Prosperity.
Yeah, so I'm putting 2 links into the comments section. I feel like these are 2 of our most popular resources. They're both free. One is that article Steve was talking about, Mule and Donkey Nutrition, Mules Can't Stand Prosperity, and the other one is a conversation with Lake and Light, or Lake and Milling, about Steve's favorite feed that he used, Lake and Light, and just setting up a proper nutrition program for your animals, and they're both fantastic. I'll put that in the comment section. And the next question we have here, this one is Ron. He emailed this in. He says, Ron from Lake City, Florida, good to see you out and about. The question I have is about shelling hoof wall. Mule is 13 years old, horse mule. The sides of the feet where the nails would go, the wall separates in layers. This has been an ongoing thing 3 years or so. I've tried several supplies, talked with veterinarians and horse shoers. Shoer I use says he has a few other mules and donkeys with this condition. I use boots when I ride. Thanks for any ideas or help, Ron.
Well, unfortunately, Ron, there's nothing you can really do. When you get separation of the lamina, and that wall starts separating, it's tough. You're actually better off with shoes than you are with boots. Far better off, because the shoes will keep the foot from contracting, and where the boots will not. So separation of the lamina, this right here is the outside hoof wall. And then you have this fibrous material in the middle, which we call the white line, which is the lamina. And then we have right here the coffin bone, okay? That's the part of the hoof. So this thing starts separating from there. And what happens is, folks, that's why a lot of you got to listen to me about this shoeing. That gravels get up in there and separate that lamina, and then pretty soon the moisture and bacteria and this sort of thing starts getting in there, and it's one of many causes for this separation of the wall from the lamina. The shoeing won't do that. The shoeing keeps that closed up, all the time, so that you have less of the gravels. That's my thought with one of them. Now, there's some other health issues, underlying health issues, but there's not really anything you could do. The great thing about shoeing is that the farrier can shoe so that the animal can reach more or be under themselves more, whichever they need. The downside of this is that you don't want to be on that mule the day that he's in so much pain from this separation of the lamina that he trips and falls on you, like I had happen to one of my clients. Folks, it doesn't cost you any more to ride a healthy mule than it does an unhealthy mule. And I know it's tough to say, but some of these need to be pasture ornaments and not be riding them or using them. And it's also best for them too, folks, because they don't show pain like we do. Mm-hmm. They don't. If they showed pain like we did, you'd be hearing a lot of screaming and yelling from these animals, from the bits and the way we put them in their mouths and this sort of thing, along with some other things. But that's a tough situation when you get the separation of the lamina like that. But get shoes on him and have your shoer walk him out good. That's the best way to do it.
Here we go. Shoes, incredibly helpful. We've got Sherry from Pensacola, Florida, saying hello. Sherry, it's good to have you here. Let's see, over on YouTube, we've got Dale Williamson, finally, late but here. We've got Terry from Hudson Valley, New York here. So happy to be here. Terry, we are happy that you are here. Susan asks, are you going to do any more clinics at your ranch? You know what, Susan? Steve and I have talked a little bit about it. We want to do it. I think we're going to wait for this coronavirus thing to kind of shake out, see what's going to happen. We had talked about doing some earlier this year, and planning just got away from us. And of course, then Steve and his wife Susan wound up being in Australia for an entire month. Got to do some really cool work over there. We talked about at the beginning of this broadcast. So yes, it's on the agenda of something that we want to do. But yeah, Steve, what do you say? Wait until this coronavirus thing shakes out and then come up with some dates?
Yeah, because pretty soon it's going to start getting hot around here, so we're thinking maybe in late fall or in the spring of next year. But I've always got to watch folks for expos. If there's an expo in your area, you'd like to have me there, let me know about that expo, and I'll see about sending in some information. It's up to you all, folks. The more people who contact them and say, we'd like to see Steve Edwards at the expo, that's how I show up.
Yeah. Yep, that's 100% the case. If they know there's someone out there that folks want to see, of course, every clinician's going to say, hey, folks want to know this stuff. But the way that they know that that's true is when the people start sending them messages saying, hey, we need this clinician out there. So Susan, if you've got one in your area, contact the organizers and let them know there's this guy who's been working with mules since '81 out in Arizona. He's learned a few things, wanting to pass it along, and is willing to travel. So let them know. We've got Wendy here on YouTube. Wendy says, wow, I just fell across this session. Hope you're okay, Wendy. I need to know so much more about donkeys. I have two and need to learn so much. Wendy from New Mexico. Well, Wendy, we're glad that you're here, because that's all we're talking about is mules and donkeys. Wendy, what question do you have? Tell us a little bit about your animals and what it is you're trying to work on with them, and we'll talk about it. I'll tell you what, Wendy, check out Steve's YouTube channel. There's hundreds of videos on there, all free. Go on there, check it out. You'll get to a point where you'll say, hey, I need to go beyond this. And Steve's got tack and saddles and awesome clinic videos available for purchase on the website. But hey, let's get you started with the free stuff and see if we can't get a little bit of mule communication coursing through your veins. It's good to have you here, Wendy. I'm glad that you're here. Yolanda's here, so we've gone international again. Good to have you here, Yolanda. Grateful.
There's Yolanda.
There's Yolanda. Let's see. We've got Sam and Renee Crawford. Hello, Steve. Snow is slowly melting here in Willow, Alaska. Looking forward to putting some miles on the trails this summer. Sam, Renee, you guys send in some pictures. We'd love to see as you get out and about. Let's see here.
They had
Danelle
it pretty
says,
tough for a while there, Dave.
Did it?
Yeah, they had a big fire coming on them. You wouldn't think about a fire in Alaska, but they had a fire that was knocking on their back doors, and they didn't get back to me and said we're in trouble. Last time I talked to them at all, they were doing pretty good, but they're sure a couple of nice folks.
That's great. Yeah, we've met a lot of really great folks through this. I mean, of course, you've been traveling for years, clinics, expos, events. And so just the network of people that we've been able to connect with from that has been great. But doing this live stream here, it sure has offered a really good connecting point each week, and we're grateful for it. Let's see here. We've got Karen. Karen's messaging. She says, my 3-year-old Molly has a sticky blackish substance in her ears. Should I clean it? And if so, how? I've never had a sticky black substance in my ears, but it doesn't sound fun.
Well, all it is they've, it's collecting dirt and stuff over the years, and yes, you can clean it out. But folks, one thing you don't want to do is don't take your scissors and cut out the hairs. Leave those in there. And that sticky substance is not that big of a deal. It actually is collecting dirt and stuff, and when they throw their head around, it actually self-cleans itself. I wouldn't worry about it. I'd just leave it alone. Just make sure the hairs in the ears stay there. I'll usually close the ear and trim it up flush, but I don't clean out the inside of the ear at all. I leave it flush. Now I know what you're saying. How do you close the ear? Well, your ear's kind of open like this, and in the center, I just close the two main cartilages together, and then some hairs are sticking up, and I'll just trim up the hairs nice and pretty.
There we go. Always learning something new. I don't think we've ever really talked about that in
all
the episodes of doing this. Haven't really talked much about that. Great question, Karen. Thanks for asking it. Tracy says, "G'day, Steve and Dave. Hope you're having a great day. Had a bit to do here, a bit late, but better late than never. Queensland, Australia. We've gone international again. Trace, it's good to have you here. Thanks for joining us." Ben Talbert says, "Hello again from Marshville, North Carolina." Karen Whitehead's here, says Karen from Raymond, California. We're all over the map today. Wendy over on YouTube, who just stumbled across our live stream today, says, "Thanks so much, I will." Wendy, muleranch.com. You can also go to muleranch.com and check out everything that we've got there. There's tons of free stuff you can find there. There's a mule saddle training course that you can find there. Matter of fact, I'll put a link to that in the comments section. And that mule saddle training course addresses a lot of issues that folks have, because so many issues, we haven't talked about saddles yet, Steve, so many issues that folks come across has to do with saddle fitting, and folks often trying to throw a normal equine saddle, horse saddle, up on the back of a mule or donkey. And what folks don't realize is that an equine is not an equine, is that they are different. They're different in the way they're shaped. They're different in the way that they move. And it's a really great course here. Mule Saddle Training Course goes through all of those differences. So if you really want to make your mule happy, if you really want to get the most joy and pleasure out of riding, you'll want to go through that saddle course. And it's all free. There's 13 videos. Next question here. This one comes from Andrea. Send an email in. "Dear Mr. Edwards, I have a big problem with my little mule. I'm sorry for my bad English. I hope you understand me." Well, hey, we're glad that you messaged in. I think we can get the gist here. "I have a little stable with 7 horses, 1 mule. Every time I get a new horse at my stable, the mule knocks the whole night at the panels, so my neighbors couldn't sleep well. I don't know how to stop it. A friend told me I should use hobbles, but I'm afraid of this because I worry he'll get hurt his sleeve with this. Do you have any ideas how to stop the knocking from the panels? With best regards, Andrea from Switzerland."
Yeah, well, folks, when it comes down to mules and donkeys and horses, donkeys and mules are very subservient to the horse, especially the mule, very subservient. And when there's a new mule, the donkey wants to visit. So he'll paw and paw and paw. When they paw, they want something. He's saying, "I want to go see this new mule, this new horse. I want to see it." Well, that's part of nature. And folks, when you have something that's part of nature, you can't take it away. It's there. So what would I do? All right, to keep the neighbors from being upset, I'd be doing something. But I would take the dog collar with a vibrating dog collar, and I would put it around the neck. And when you hear it paw, bump him with it. Only bump it. Just enough so that he tells him it's going to be uncomfortable. Now remember, I didn't say the electrical impulse. I said the vibrating end of it. Now, you're not going to get him to quit it, but you'll get him to start figuring out that when he paws, he's going to get vibrated. Then what's going to have to happen is you're going to have to kind of keep a collar around his neck, and then he's going to think, okay, when I paw, you're going to hit me with that vibrator. And so that would be my best suggestion for you, because he's going to do it. There's no taking it away.
It's in the nature.
At least make him uncomfortable when he's making you uncomfortable.
Yep. Very good. Hopefully that helps, Andre. Next question we got here. This one came in. This was sent from one of our friends in Canada. So even though it's an email, we've gone international again, up in Canada. He says, "Hi, Steve. If my mare gives birth to a male mule, since he will be sterile, do I have to cut him gelding? Thanks for your video on YouTube. They're very helpful. I am from Montreal suburb in Quebec province, Canada."
Yes, folks. Yes, they are sterile. They only have 21 chromosomes, and they need 24 in order to produce with young babies. So, yes, castrate them. And yes, castrate them just as soon as both testicles are visual. If both testicles are visual, usually by 6 months, two things happen. One, I castrate them. Number two, I pull out the wolf tooth. I do that all the time. 6 months is my deadline. If I can do it before then, I want to do it. It gives them great brain surgery, and it's a lot better for it.
So talk a little bit. So we're talking about brain surgery. Huh? Talk a little bit about imprinting, because doesn't that happen when they're young as well?
That is a wonderful thing that has been around for a lot of years, and a very good friend of mine, Dr. Robert Miller, who has written books after books and videos, and he's a great trainer. Him and his wife he's been a veterinarian all his life, but him and his little wife equine have been their life, period. And he basically, what he did was he brought imprinting where people could actually read about it and see it with the videos. Like I said, it's been around a long time, but he showed them how to do it. Basically, what you're doing with the imprinting is you're taking the flight and fright process and you're minimizing it so that you're able to handle the animal at a young age. For instance, when you go to pick up a foot and they fight and they're jerking their leg and this sort of thing, they're trying to take it back. The split second they relax, let go of it, and then take it up again. That is imprinting. Imprinting is not just touching them, moving around, putting your fingers in every hole. Imprinting is helping the flight and fright process to not be so prevalent in an equine's life.
That's good. Very helpful. Okay, so I was replying back to Claude. Claude was our Canadian friend. Sent him the answer and everything. And he wrote back. He goes, "How do you tell the difference between a mule and a hinny? I want to buy, but the seller is not sure if it's a mule or a hinny. How will it make how can I tell the difference?" But on top of that, Steve, talk about what is the difference.
Yeah. Okay. Number one, the only way you can tell if it's a mule or a donkey is the DNA. It's not short ears, it's not small head, it's not size and stature or weight. The only way is if you know the donkey, the mother, and the father, the stallion. Normally, it's the other way. The father's the donkey, mother is the mare. That's a mule. But to have a hinny, the stallion must breed a donkey. Now, most stallions will not breed a donkey, but some will, and sometimes it even gets done by AI. But is there anything any better about having? I've got a mule, compared to a hinny. There ain't no difference, when it comes down to looks and things like this. I have the several that I've written actually over the years. I didn't seem to think there was a strong feeling to me when I was working them, but it could have just been that mule or donkey. But it's not a big deal, It's just more of an oddity. I've got a hinny here. Well, what's a hinny? But that's about all there is to it. But there's no other way to know unless you know the parents.
So we get a lot of questions about the hinny. I mean, that's one that we've answered, I don't know, probably 20 or 25 times over the last couple of years. Why is there such a fascination with them? Is there something that people suppose is a difference? Are there some legends about them? Or is it just it's a new word and they're looking to learn?
It's the uniqueness of them. David, God created us all in His image, and lots of thoughts are on that. But when it comes down to this, people like to think that they have something really unique, and so having this word hinny, and this is a hinny, that looks more like a donkey to me. Well, it looks more like a mule to me. No, it's a hinny. Well, how do you know? Well, it's got smaller ears. No, it don't. Well, it's got smaller head. No, it don't. The only way you can really tell it's a hinny is by DNA. It's on the way. So all it is more anything else, David, is just a novelty. You know, that somebody says, I've got this. It's like me. I tell folks I got a 49 Mercury. Oh, 49 Mercury, cool. I mean, it's different, you know. Or I tell people when they say, well, what type of work do you do, Steve? Oh, I train mules. Mules? What do you do with mules? And then they want to know about it. It's a novelty.
Yeah.
It's something different. And that's when it comes down to the hinny. There's nothing real special about them. They still walk. They still eat. They still put road apples on the ground, and you can ride them. But it's more the novelty, Dave, than anything else.
Yeah, that makes sense. We all like having something unique. Sarah asked a question over on YouTube. This is going back to our castration and foal question. My vet said he won't castrate until a year old, so we are waiting and going to get that done this month and wolf teeth pulled. Is there going to be issues from waiting and not doing it at 6 months?
I personally think that they make a better gelding when they're in the gelding earlier. I think they're not as steady. I think they're not as silly, personally. But that's just my in general outlook at it as I've seen them. Dr. Miller, he's one of the first ones that agreed with me that says just as soon as them testicles are showing, I'm castrating them. Disposition, folks, is what you want in anything. It's not because it's a Molly mule is the reason he's got such a good disposition, or a gelding, John mule got such a good disposition. No, they are born with that disposition, folks. They are born that way. You can't make it or anything else. They got that disposition because they want to be part of you. My granddaughter's got a great little mule right now. She's training for this up and coming competitions, and he's got a great disposition. You can see it in the way he walks, head down, quietly, nice stride. He's been bred pretty nice. Black mule, stocky legs, kind of like I like to have, Dave, and but really nice. But folks, it's disposition. I would say just as soon as he gets gelded, you go to work on him. You're not going to be riding him by any means, but you're going to be picking up feet. You're going to be leading him. You're going to be doing ground foundation training, and you're going to be giving him something to do.
That's good. One of the things that I really like what you said right there, you described the type of mule that you like, and I think the one thing that I've heard consistent from you is disposition first, conformation second, and what was the third one?
Then it comes into training.
Then comes in training. What I have really appreciated is that it doesn't seem to me that there is a perfect mule out there. It's kind of, what are you looking to do? What do you like? Look for disposition, conformation, and then consider training. But there's not a right mule out there. There's not this is the one that we hold up as the perfect mule that everybody has to be like. It's after those three things, it's what do you like? What do you find enjoyable? But disposition first, conformation second, training third.
Yeah. And training, Dave, is not what I call dog and pony show. And unfortunately people look at that and go, oh, look. Like the one picture we got, the lady says, how's my conformation?
Yeah.
And there's that little boy standing on top of the mule with no helmet on. That's frustrating to me anyway. Yeah. But that's just dog and pony show. Just because they can stand on top of that mule, that tells me they got a pretty decent disposition. Just because they can lay that mule down, which I hate, people shouldn't be doing that. It's way too tough on the bone structure. That mule is not meant for us to be riding them anyway, but we got a saddle with bars on it to help us even distribute the weight. But when that mule has to stand up and lift up my 200 plus pounds and get up, putting pressure on that backbone is not good. Dog and pony shows, folks. Just because they're going down the trail and you see them go down the trail or go down a highway and they got cars and traffic, people are waving at them and stuff, that's dog and pony show. If they're truly trained in a 10-foot circle, get this, folks, in a 10-foot circle, they're going to side pass, turn on the forehand, turn on the hindquarters, back up lightly, pick up all 4 feet, stand still and quiet to get on and off in a 10-foot circle. Now, if I can do that in a 10-foot circle, I can go down the highway. I can go down the trails.
Yeah.
I can go hunting in Colorado. But to lay them down and do the dog and pony shows is, folks, that's not training. It's not.
And we've had plenty of people, they'll say, oh, I went, I saw the owner ride them, I got up, no problems, I brought them home, and then it was something completely different. And it's exactly like you said, they did one specific thing, but they didn't have true training. They didn't have a foundation built. They didn't have ground foundation, which is something we talk about constantly, is not desensitizing and not, dog and pony show, but it is true ground foundation and learning to communicate as the herd leader to the animal.
Yeah, we used to say wet saddle blankets is what does it. In other words, just a lot of riding. Well, that's all well and good, and this sort of thing, because here's what I always tell people after they've taken a mule home that I've trained. I put a foundation on this mule. He does everything that you ask him to do because he knows how to do it. You're training this mule to go up the side of the mountain. You're training this mule to work out in an arena. But it's because you got a different handle than I do. I tell folks, remember the Pennsylvania story. Lady says, this mule is stubborn just like my husband. Oh, well, show me. Well, she rode out just a few feet and the mule come right back. I got on the mule, took the mule anywhere I wanted. Everybody thought I trained that mule. No. The problem was the lady didn't know how to communicate with that mule. Period. Wasn't the mule's fault. Her fault. So, folks, when you go to take this mule's home, you take this mule's home and you put them in a separate corral. Do not put them out in the pasture with a bunch of other animals. It'll change their whole demeanor. You bring them home, you put them in a corral, you spend the next 6 months with them. 6 months builds a steady foundation. 6 months. So don't just take them home, turn them loose, thinking, okay, they're trained, we're ready to go. They will have a problem, just like my 49 Merc. My 49 Merc, it got overheated. Had to replace the water pumps on it. Well, what else happened? Well, the heads blew a head gasket. Well, it's a nice car and all, but things break down. With these mules, we miscommunicate with them. So you need to make sure, folks, that when you buy this mule, you have spent time riding the mule, talking with the people, and going from there. Don't just take you home thinking, yep, got me a trained mule. No, you got yourself a wreck looking for a place to happen.
One of the videos that's included in the complete collection that's available right now on Steve's website, it's $400 off. 15 videos is So you want to buy a mule. And so we go into a lot of this type of stuff so you don't find yourself in that situation. I think Eileen Easterday, hey Eileen, it's good to have you here. She just chimed in. She says that's the problem that I have right there. And that way you don't wind up in that same situation, or at least you eliminate as much as possible, as much guessing games as possible, because you'll always learn new things when you get the mule home. But you're doing your due diligence up front. Let's see here. We've got Bridget Bridget over on YouTube. Hey, Bridget, or Bridger, says, how do you prefer to teach a mule to move forward from the saddle? Do you teach them with constant pressure with the legs, kicking noises, or light kicks?
Well, okay, so let's start from a colt, my first ride. I have already, on the ground, put my hand on places to where I would side pass, turn on the forehand, turn on the hindquarters. I've already put my hands there. They already know to give off of my hand. They already know how to side pass and everything while I'm in the saddle. Now I want him to go forward. So I have my hands on my direct reining with the Mule Rider's martingale, and I set and I hold the head over here like this. So my head's supposed to be straight. I take my hands, I turn my wrist, turn my left hand, and I wait. The head is still pointing forward, but my hands are over here to the right, and I wait. My legs are quiet. I am quiet. I don't cluck. I don't kiss. Nothing. I wait. Well, now the mule moves his head. I let go. So the mule's thinking, okay, now when I move my head, you're going to let go of me because that's what he's looking for. So I take my hands, I put it there again. And he's thinking, okay, I'll move my head, but I still hold my hands in the same place. Well, he's thinking, now why don't you let go of me? Then he moves a foot. I come back and do it again. Well, pretty soon, I got him going to the right, I got him going to the left, and he's doing a good job of moving off to the left and moving off to the right, because what I don't want him to do is go forward, because here's what happens. He'll jump out and go to bucking or running off and stuff, but if I get him to go a few steps to the left, a few steps to the right, then he'll go good. Now, I got a well-broke mule. He's well-trained. I've got my hands on the reins, one-handed. I stand up in the saddle a little bit. I lean forward, squeezing both of my legs together. We go forward. If I want to go to the right or left, I pick up on my rein. He says, yes, sir. I move my left leg into the left side, and they go to the right. So as you progress, there's this amount of use. But first, start small. Nose, shoulder, body. Nose, shoulder, body. Don't just say, well, go move, go move. That's when you're going to get one blown up, because now you've scared him.
Very good. All right. Well, we've gone a little bit over. Let's just wrap up a few questions here. Real quick, we got a question from Chuck. This is a pretty simple one. Chuck says, I use your neoprene trail cinch on my mule as a front cinch. I use a leather rear cinch. Do you recommend using your trail cinch as a rear cinch?
Absolutely. Get rid of those billets. Get rid of that leather rear cinch. Use nylon latigos because they're the strongest and they're smooth. Notice when the latigos get wet, they bind up. What are you doing? Teaching your mule to blow air in his lungs so that he protects himself. So, take the rear cinch, put 2 nylon latigos on it. And let's just say on a 15-2 mule, I'm going to put a 38-inch cinch on the back, and I'm going to put a 34 on the front. I'm going to put a hobble strap between the two of them, and that way I can tighten my back cinch, and my front cinch will be loose. And of course, always ride with the breeching.
Always ride with the breeching, no crooper. There's lots of stuff about that on the YouTube channel. Be sure to check that out. We've got another question about from Sean about stalls. Steve, we have 2 gelding mammoth donkeys that are separated in their stalls. When we put them out to pasture, the older one mounts the other one and is rubbing bald spots on his rump. It was suggested we put boots on the one to cause less damage. Do you have a recommendation on what type of boot I would try? Tried to add a pick, couldn't send it in. Hopefully you can help. Thanks, Sean.
Well, Sean, you got a difficult situation there. So I think you're telling me that the one that is mounting the other is a young jack that's been gelded. So if so, he could very well be proud cut. Also, if he's under 7 years old, it's part of play, okay? They're going to pull hide off each other, bite and kick and this sort of thing is what they do. But there's no real way to fix that. But I would like to know if it is a gelding. He could be proud cut. In other words, he still thinks he's a stud, and you may have to have the vet go back in there and fix that up.
Very good. All right, let's see here. Jacob says, I've been told that a lot of stuff to start off with that. I've been told that a mule needs to have more heel left on the hoof. I have concerns that too much heel will become underrun. Can you speak about the difference between horse trimming versus mules?
Okay. When you trim your mules, when you balance and frame up your donkeys, you do it according to the shoulder. So you look at the shoulder, you look at the foot, you look at the shoulder, you look at the foot, and you see the angle of that shoulder, that's the angle of that hoof. One of the big problems with shoers today is they take off too much heel, and they've created a lot of lameness in these animals because they have. The heel is only going to depend upon that shoulder, okay? So it's very difficult to get heel on the rear. Very, very difficult. But again, only way you can do it, only way, is using shoes and doing corrective shoeing. And the biggest thing you have to worry about, Sean, when it comes down to these animals, is they get contracted in the heels. And then when you get contracted in the heels, you don't have a nice frog. You don't have a nice frog, you're up a creek. You're not going to get blood flow.
The foot's everything. You don't got a foot, you don't got a mule. Got to take care of the foot. Got to take care of the foot and got to keep shoes on them. And there's lots of stuff on our YouTube channel about that as well. Let's see here. I think we've got one more. Linda says, hey, Dave and Steve, just joining now from Michigan. Linda, we're glad that you're here. Astra, good to have you here. Astra says, we have a mule that will blow or snort when he smells something different. It reminds me of a deer blow before it runs off. Even when he sees a new person, he is unsure until he smells them. Is this normal? Thank you.
Yes. Very normal. They do it. That's part of life. It's their way of saying, hey, I'm bigger, badder, and I need to know what's going on with you. And yeah, it's not unusual at all. I used to have one mule that, anytime I knew elk were around close, he'd go to snorting and blowing, and I knew I was going to get me an elk that day.
That's right. Let's see here. Over on YouTube, Walt joined us. Walt in Reno. Good to have you, Walt. Daniel from Beaumont, Texas, just listening and learning. Daniel, thank you so much. If there's anything we can do to help either of you gentlemen, please let us know. Eileen chimed in earlier. Eileen Easterday from Nebraska. She's watching, came in late, but better late than never, Eileen. We're glad you're here. And Kathy Gass, just at the end here. Hi, Steve and Dave, signing in late from sunny Cotati, California. Disappointed I missed today's discussion. Kathy, I got good news. Good news is that the replay is available. Matter of fact, every single replay from all of our videos, it's available on YouTube. You can go to Steve's YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/u/mule trainer. And you can see all of the past discussions. There's a lot of really good stuff there. Matter of fact, you can also subscribe. Steve, I've got a podcast for us too. The people can listen to us wherever they subscribe. Let me see. What's the podcast.co? I'll get the link here for a second. Steve, we got through all of our questions. That was it.
Good deal. Hey, I got some good news I got to share with you.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Well, I've been in the mule world for a lot of years, and then there's people that I meet that I knew that were, really good mule men and women. And there's a lot of people out now that's getting mules. I mean, this mule population has exploded tremendously because the horse market tanked. And so now the mules are where the money are, and now people are starting to see that if you breed good, you're going to have good. But going back, I've got a very good friend by the name of Lloyd Holly. We used to visit all the time at Bishop. I talked to him a few times on the phone and things like this. But he's in Arkansas, and of course I'm in Arizona. And Lloyd's had some health problems, but he's been an awesome mule man. It's just amazing the amount of knowledge the man has. But he's had Parkinson's for 20 years, and it's taking him on, Dave. And he just got out of the hospital. He was 110 days. My goodness, 110 days in the hospital, but come out. And so I called him. Some friends called me that had bought some mules from him, and he told them to go to me to buy saddles and stuff. But anyway, they told me that he was in bad health. So I thought, I'm going to call Lloyd and visit with him. Haven't been visiting with him in a while. Visited with him and this sort of thing. And I said, Lloyd, I got a question to ask you. You've come really close to death, and it's been kind of tough on you with your health and stuff. But do you know that Christ can be your Savior. I'm not talking about a religion, Lloyd. I'm talking about a Savior. And he said, Steve, I never heard it put like that. I don't know, you know. And I said, wouldn't you want today to make Christ your Savior and make sure that the pearly gates are going to be yours? He said, yeah, I would do that. So Dave, Lloyd Holly prayed with me.
Yeah.
He asked Christ into his life. He believed that he was a sinner and that Christ died for his sins. And by golly, I am so excited. It is a wonderful thing to see this good mule man. He's going to be riding good mules up there in heaven.
Yep, that's awesome. Bible says that we get an opportunity to experience things that angels wish they could do, that angels wish they could experience, the things that angels wish they could look into. And having a relationship with Jesus, and he's a God who doesn't separate himself, but we believe he came down to earth, he lived, he died, he rose again, and he offers us the same opportunity to have eternal life. To be able to share that with somebody is fantastic. Of course, we answer mule and donkey questions here, and of course, we know that everybody's in a different position. But if there's something about the story about Jesus that you are interested in, you can send us a message. You can message Steve, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you have about that either. We're not trying to push anything on anybody, but we know that there are questions. And if you ever get to that point, and we hope that you do, where you just want to know a little bit more and say, hey, I've never heard it put that way before, could you share a little bit more? We're here to do that. Steve, that's great. I'm glad we got to end in the session this week on that note. Anything else you want to share? I mean, that's hard to follow up. That's pretty much the best news you can get. But anything else you want to share?
I tell you what, I was floating. My wife was sitting next to me praying.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, look, Lloyd, I said, the Bible says you confess with your mouth and believe in your heart. He's not looking for the perfect person. He's not looking for a really good person. He's looking for somebody who is willing to know that he can have a Savior. That's what he did. That's what's important to me. But, folks, we need to pray for this United States. We know the world is in trouble with this pandemic, but you have the power to move a God who loves us. You have it. And you know, the disciples themselves, they cried out and said, teach us, Lord, how to pray. Teach us how to do it. Use that power that's given to you for free. Pray for our first responders. Dave, right now we got a fire out here. I fought it yesterday for almost 8 hours with a crew of a bunch of other guys.
Yeah.
And I took today off. I was pretty shot after that. You know, when you're out there climbing up the mountains and running them hoses and using those hoses and stuff, at 70 years old, I was kind of wore out.
It takes it out of you.
Yeah, I got to go up on my hill right now and fix my water leak. Lord, I'm thankful for a water leak and that I have the wisdom to fix it. So, hey, God bless you all.
Thank you, everybody.
Donkeys.
Take care. Take care. We'll see you later next Wednesday. Steve, hope you feel better. Got a little something there. We'll see y'all.
Allergies, you know.
Allergies, yes.